Good evening. I'm Rabbi Elisa Kopel. My pronouns are she, her, and I am delighted to be with you all to celebrate Hanukkah together as the Delaware community. I am the immediate past president of DERECH, the Delaware Rabbis and Cantors, and I want to offer a huge thanks to Federation for really making this program possible and for facilitating it with us, and to Kim Eppiheimer and Matt Meyer, both for being here and sharing their wisdom and their experience with all of us as we explore how we all can bring light into darkness. As one of the major themes of Hanukkah, we bring light in the darkest time of year, and that's what we also can do. And as we find light for ourselves, it is up to us to bring light to others. Like the shamash, the job of the shamash candle is to light the other candles. Our job as people is to be the shamash for our community and for all who are in need of more light. And with that, I turn it over.
Good evening and Chag Sameach, everyone. It is a joy to be with you on this Hanukkah Eve. It is my pleasure to be able to offer you some words of teaching. My name is Rabbi Jacob Lieberman. I am the current chair of the Delaware Rabbis and Cantors Association, as well as the Rabbi of Temple Beth El in Newark, Delaware. I want to share with you some of the thoughts, some of the meaning behind our decision to offer this program tonight, this program with the goal of offering some light in an otherwise dark time. It goes without saying that not only are the days growing shorter and the darkness growing longer, but that we've had a very challenging and difficult year. And our hope is that this program will offer you some spiritual nourishment and sustenance, and now some sustenance and nourishment from our Jewish text. Many of you know the story of Adam and Eve, their time in the garden, and their experience of being punished upon eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge. God says that they will be returned to dust, and Adam is cast out of the garden. And there is a teaching found in the Talmud in Avodah Zarah, which is really exploration of a question, which is about when the festivals of this time of year are celebrated. They're exploring Kalenda 8 days after the winter solstice and Saturnalia 8 days before the winter solstice. And in trying to understand this, they bring this Mishnah. The sages taught, when Adam, the first human being, saw that the day was progressively diminishing as the days become shorter from the autumnal equinox until the winter solstice, he did not yet know that this is a normal phenomenon. And therefore he said, "Woe is me. Perhaps because I sinned, the world is becoming dark around me and will ultimately return to the primordial state of chaos and disorder." This is Adam's very first winter. And this is the death that was sentenced upon me from heaven, the verse that we just read. And to dust shall you return, from Genesis chapter 3, verse 19. So Adam is heading into these days. And it's his first experience of the days growing shorter. It's his first experience of darkness beginning to surround him. And he thinks, he believes in his heart of hearts that this is the end. That the darkness will grow greater and greater and greater until that darkness overwhelms him and overcomes him and means the end of his life. So he rises and he fasts. He spends 8 days fasting and praying. And once he saw that the season of Tevet, and tonight, mamash, tonight is Rosh Chodesh Tevet, the winter solstice had arrived. And he saw that the day was getting progressively longer after the solstice. He said, Clearly, the days become shorter and then longer. And this is the order of the world. Adam went on to observe a festival for 8 days, a festival much like our festival of light. And in the next year, he observed these 8 days on which he had fasted the previous year. And he observed 8 days after the winter solstice is the days of the festival. Adam established these festivals, l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, but they, to answer the question posed to our rabbis, were holidays celebrated for other traditions. So in planning tonight's event, we wanted very much to offer the hope that Adam felt as the days began to increase in light. Our program tonight is meant to offer you some light in these otherwise dark times. It's my great pleasure to be with you tonight for it. I'd like to invite Rabbi Michael Beals.
Thank you so much, Jake, and what a beautiful teaching. So I have behind me some candles all lit for Chanukah to get you in the spirit after that beautiful drash. And I have a beautiful person to introduce. And I'm indebted to the Delaware Business Times author, Jacob Owens, who wrote something really beautiful about our Matt. So he writes, if you read Matt Meyer's biography, it seems like some kind of cooked up fairy tale. An Ivy League grad, Brown, who moved to Africa, Kenya, to create a company that benefited locals, served as a United States diplomat in Iraq amid an active wartime zone, Mosul, taught in Wilmington at Prestige Academy Charter and Washington, D.C., inner schools through Teach for America to aid children in need, and even earned a law degree at University of Michigan and practiced at a high-profile business firm, Oracle. In 2016, he ran against three-term incumbent Newcastle County Executive Tom Gordon and won, despite few believing he could. He spent his first 4 years in office cutting expenses, diversifying its administrative staff, making the government more responsive to citizens and businesses, and promoting innovative solutions. In November, voters overwhelmingly reelected him to a second term. And Meyer isn't even 50 yet. And he's available. Okay, sorry, he didn't write that. He said that Matt said that a commitment to service and making a difference has guided his adventurous career arc. Quote, since I was a kid, my parents really ingrained in me that you can make a difference in this world and that you can leave this world differently than you found it. He said, noting that belief has only strengthened in his travels. During the Shiva Zoom call of his congregation Beth Shalom Hebrew School teacher, the late Arlene Davis, Zichronah Livracha, Matt claimed that he learned many of the basic Jewish humane values he has tried to infuse in his position as county executive in those first years with Arlene and her CBS Hebrew School teachers. Meyer is the amalgamation of an attorney father, CBS member Bob Meyer, who worked at Wilmington powerhouse firm Richard Layton and Finger, and a mother, CBS mother Ellen Meyer, who dreamed of opening her wings. She was accepted into one of the first classes of the U.S. Peace Corps and was set to serve overseas before her parents refused to sign off on the plan, Meyer recalled. Quote, I think that ingrained in her a desire to have her children, to some degree, live out those dreams and opportunities that she was not able to, he said. His interest in politics was also planted early as he worked on then U.S. Senator Joe Biden's first presidential campaign in 1988 while in high school at the Wilmington Friends School after attending Harlan and then Shipley Elementary. Quote, I was ahead of the curve, the right candidate, just a little bit too early, he said with a laugh. Myers said he felt a calling to politics when he saw the disparity between his experience in Iraq and his life here at home. In 2012, 16-year-old Alexander Kamara Jr. was killed in a shooting at Eden Park while he was playing in a soccer tournament. Quote, I remember reading about it in the newspaper and thinking, I was trying to teach Iraqis how to do it right, and this is how we're doing it here, he said, noting he began seeing more stories of such senseless violence, and he wanted to try to make a difference in the social and economic circumstances that often drive crime. And I think that's the perfect setup for Matt and what he wants to do now. There's so much more in the biography, but I think you get a sense of where his neshama is, where his soul is, and what an appropriate speaker for putting light in dark places. I give you my friend, my congregant, our county exec, Matt Meyer.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rabbi Beals. It feels a little bit like my bar mitzvah. You know, tonight is actually special in a couple ways for me. The first is that my mother has been particularly enthusiastic about my running for public office, you know, starting 4 years ago. I used to think it was because I was the best person for the job. I've come to learn that it may only be because she knew in my job I talk to rabbis and go to shul more often than ever before. It's also special for me because as a kid, our parents gave us gifts for 7 nights only during Hanukkah. The 8th night was tzedakah night. We had a discussion in our family and we picked an individual or group most in need. And so one day was for giving. One Hanukkah evening was for giving gifts rather than receiving gifts. And we made the holiday season special for that recipient. So it's apropos that tonight I'm speaking. It's literally hours after our county opened what I call Hope Hotel, the largest and most ambitious facility to assist individuals experiencing homelessness literally in state history. A little later tonight, you're going to hear from Kim Eppiheimer, who runs Friendship House, who has been absolutely integral day to day in making the facility work. Even now, she's at the former Sheridan site to intake. I think there are a couple more shuttles still coming tonight. One element of what I think is happening right now in our community is what NYU's Scott Galloway calls the Great Acceleration. There's a former Scottish MP, a guy named George Galloway, who years ago said, nothing can happen for decades, and then suddenly in decades, it can happen for weeks. Nothing can happen for decades, and then decades can happen for weeks. In so many areas of our lives and how we purchase things and how we travel, how we meet now, how we go to work, how do we meet with faraway friends, how we go to the doctor and office and school. It's all suddenly changed in a matter of weeks or months compared to what it was certainly this time last year. You think back to the last pandemic, 1918, and it looks like we've taken such a leap forward. We're using technology to live our lives in ways unlike ever before. My challenge to my colleagues in county government was and is, how do we make that same leap forward in governmental and community services? Can we leverage this historic dislocation, this great acceleration, so that somehow this awful dark cloud, this cloud that has killed over 300,000 Americans, including a member or 2 or 3 of this Jewish community, hospitalized and caused pain to so many of our friends and relatives, caused over 40 million Americans to be unemployed? Can we leverage this terrible situation so that years from now we look back and see that the silver lining was actually larger than the dark cloud? In effect, to borrow from 2 other sources, there is no better opportunity than today for tikkun olam, to repair the brokenness in our society. If not now, when? I challenged my appointees and senior leadership in county government. How do we use this terribly unique time to dramatically reduce crime, to retrain a workforce for the 2020, 2021 economy, to remake our schools, to address issues of inequity older than America itself? I actually wrote my senior thesis in college on the implementation of something called the McKinney Act, a federal law that provided efforts to educate homeless children. And my challenge to Carrie Casey and Nicole Waters, who head the housing section in Newcastle County government, was, could we think bigger than ever before? Could we make a decade forward leap in services to the poor? Could we actually end homelessness in Newcastle County? And this one initiative we're talking about tonight, the Hope Hotel, the former Sheridan, will not end homelessness in Newcastle County. But it is a step, a big step, to provide dignity to hundreds and maybe thousands of individuals and families in our community, to provide support and new opportunities to individuals and families experiencing homelessness. As I mentioned, the Hope Hotel actually opened about 7.5 hours ago. Simply opening this hotel, acquiring the Sheridan Hotel along I-95 just south of 141, makes a dramatic statement about our values as a community, values that in the worst of times, we look out for the least and most vulnerable among us, values that we treat those individuals and families with dignity as human beings. In the past 3 years, pre-COVID, 2 of Newcastle County's largest transitional shelters closed, the YMCA and the RVRC Center, both in Wilmington. Those working with homeless back in 2019, last year, pre-COVID, told me that there simply was nowhere for the homeless to go anymore. There was no way out for those individuals and families. I've always said, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. And I know for many of us, memories of 2020 start March 13th, but I remember very closely in February, 4 homeless individuals died sleeping outside in Stanton near Delaware Park, not in Wilmington, but way out in the county, in unincorporated Newcastle County. So before COVID, we were looking at a crisis and we were trying to think about how we can address that crisis. Many shelters were closing their doors for good reason, for safety, once COVID came in March. COVID made a dangerous situation for the homeless even worse. Libraries, coffee shops, state day centers where the homeless normally could go during the day were suddenly closed. So I convened a task force of community leaders across our county to give recommendations. How do we protect the most vulnerable? That task force advised us to use federal dollars to purchase a vacant hotel and operate it as transitional housing for the duration of COVID. Further, we can use it not only as housing, but as a one-stop shop for our most vulnerable populations, a place where you can get a warm bed and a hot meal in a safe COVID-free environment, but also a place where you can get assistance with your substance use or mental health disease, where there are services to protect you and help you with domestic abuse, a place where we offer the highest quality job training in a range of trades, a place where there's the highest quality tutoring and academic assistance for children. We're in conversations now to train residents not only to clean the rooms of the hotel, but to do so in a way that residents can then start earning a decent wage in a sanitation career. We're in conversations with some of Delaware's best restaurants to train residents not only to make some food to serve at Hope Hotel, but also to do so in a way that residents can start earning a decent wage in a food career. An idea I've mentioned to several clergy across the state and that Rabbi Beals and I have had conversations about, something he's coined a spiritual voucher, connecting residents initially virtually and then once safe in person to a spiritual counselor who can help address spiritual and emotional needs. We're joking with my staff that you can go into a hotel room and sort of press 1 for a rabbi, press 2 for priest, press 3 for imam, and so on. So that's the vision. And there are going to be a lot of ways that you can help. My instructions to Carrie Casey and Nicole Waters, who've done extraordinary work the past 2 months getting this off the ground, and Kim at Friendship House, you're going to hear from, is just get it open today. People are cold. Let's do whatever we can to open this facility as quickly as possible. Give everyone a safe, warm place to sleep, a good, nutritious meal. And then in the days and weeks going forward, we're going to work out substance abuse assistance, domestic assistance, things like that, to provide a holistic experience, hopefully including spiritual vouchers. I know Kim's going to mention this, but if you know anyone who you think could benefit from this facility, they need to call 833-FIND-BED, 833-FIND-BED. For a number of reasons, we're not able to take walk-ups. And starting next week, anyone that calls 833-FIND-BED will be able to come get a shuttle ride to the facility and come in. So again, thank you so much for each of you for joining us tonight. I was there earlier today. just to see how it was going. Kim was there doing intake and told me to pick up a thermometer and start taking in residents and talking to them when they came in. It's really going to be an inspiration for the community, something I think we can all be proud of, and we're excited to partner with so many of you to play a part in turning this vision of how our community can improve into a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. I am so grateful to you for your leadership and your vision, for your expression of Jewish values in caring for the most vulnerable and the work you did. It's my privilege at this time to introduce Kim Eppiheimer, the Executive Director of Friendship House. Kim has been the Director of Friendship House since January 2018. But has been working at Friendship House since 2014, when she began volunteering through Red Clay Creek Church, Presbyterian Church. Kim comes to Friendship House with a Master's of Accounting from the University of Maryland and a certificate in theology and ministry from Princeton Seminary, and a certificate in nonprofit management from the University of Delaware. And perhaps most importantly, the work that Kim does through Friendship House is legendary in Newark. Each year in our work in the Newark Interfaith Clergy Group, we have the opportunity to work with an organization to raise funds during our annual Thanksgiving event. And this is how I first came to know Kim and the work of Friendship House. And Kim, it's been a delight to be in service with you in Newark. And I'm very much grateful to you for accepting the call to speak tonight about this important project and work. Kim?
Thank you so much, Rabbi Jacob. I appreciate this. Thank you so much for having me here tonight to share about Friendship House and about the Hope Center. A little bit of information about, those that are experiencing homelessness and what it's been like while in COVID. So for those who are street level homeless, when COVID hit and our state shut down, one of the significant difficulties they had is they pretty much lost their lifelines. So people who are living on the street, they know where they're allowed to go to get access to water, shelter, coffee, places they can go to just be. And those places ceased to allow people inside. So one of the things that Friendship House started was to make sure that they had those significant lifelines. We worked closely with the county to make sure something as simple as a bathroom was available, and porta potties with wash stations were on site at many of our centers. Things that we might take for granted were not at the fingertips for those that needed it so desperately. COVID has continued to just be very difficult for those. Right now, the reason we're even here at the Hope Center is because we're facing a significant need with what is called Code Purple. So historically, pre-COVID, a Code Purple happens when the temperatures overnight fall below 32 degrees. And in Newcastle County, often it meant 20 degrees because we didn't have the resources to do it more. So when that happened, we would have our worshiping communities would open space and we could allow people inside. They would congregate, they would eat together. Our volunteers would hear the stories of those that are coming in for such needed shelter, and they would stay overnight. And then in the morning, we would give them some food, a bus pass, and they would go on their way. This was part of their survival network. With COVID, we've been unable to do the Code Purple the way that we normally would do Code Purple. Most of our worshiping communities have remained closed. Many of the volunteers are not only in the vulnerable age group, but they're trying to honor the call to shelter in place and don't exceed, your activities. So we were having an issue of how do we do Code Purple? How do we open up our space to those that are in such desperate need? When I got the call from the county, specifically Carrie Casey, saying, what if we gave you a hotel to do Code Purple out of? I just about cried. It was the answer, and it was perfect. We've been working in collaboration with the county for the past 8 weeks to figure out how we get the right staff, how we get logistics like transportation, and food to those that are the most vulnerable in order to safely and effectively get them here at the Hope Center. As Matt said, today was opening day, and we have roughly about 50 people who would normally come to our Code Purple shelters that are here with us in beautiful rooms, warm, safe, and they have food. It has been such an honor and privilege to be able to work with the county in getting this to happen, but it's not just the county and Friendship House. There have been many, many people involved making this possible. Listening to the teaching, it really made me think about those that we work with. When you're dealing with homelessness, especially if it's something new, it could feel like darkness is surrounding you. You lose your community. You lose people who otherwise may have been there. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe you've lost your house and everything is caving in. It's in those precious moments that we as their community can step in and remind them that light is around the corner, to remind them that hope is always there. And that's at the heart of what Friendship House is about. It's about reminding people that no matter where they are, no matter where they are on their journey, that there is light and that there is hope. We walk with each person. We don't look at them and think, you are the problem, but we look at them and try to dissect, what is the problem you're facing and how can we get around it? Right now with COVID and with the seriously cold winter weather, the problem is shelter and warmth. And with the Hope Center, we've been able to navigate that and we've been able to give them the most significant needs that they need. I am so thankful for the county and for this opportunity to be able to be here. And thank you again for letting me share about what it's been like here at the Hope Center. A lot of people have been asking again, I think Matt did say this, how do we get people there? We can only accept referrals. So you have to have people call 1-833-FIND-BED in order for them to get here. And then they will get the voucher. And they may not come here, and that's something important to note. There are, I think, about 10 hotels that are in this system that they could get a voucher to, so there's no guarantee of coming here. Our vision ultimately is to have significant programs that they can really get what they need. So this is considered transitional, but for now, they're all home, and we're thrilled to be able to have them here. Thank you so much for, again, letting me share and for being here with you all tonight.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you, Matt. We wanted, as part of the DERECH program, to open things up to give you an opportunity, for those of you who are attending, to ask questions. And the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen is a great place to post questions that you might have for either our county executive or the executive director of Friendship House. While maybe you're thinking of what you might ask, I just want to note personally that the Jewish mystical tradition likes to think of us in some way as a wick. And that when we do the right thing, when we fulfill commandments or extend ourselves on behalf of others, it is as if oil is poured upon us, that we can contain a fire, a flame that will shine forth and create a place not just for more light, but for the presence of the divine. And being here tonight certainly feels extra special, a new way of celebrating Hanukkah. And though we didn't say so explicitly, I do want to note that DERECH's hope is that each year we can ask our elected officials and members of the community at large, what are the areas of darkness that need to be addressed, and who is doing good work around them that we can highlight, that we can add a little oil, spark a match, and share with the community at large. Next year, God willing, will be a very different year. And when we come back together, we hope that our community is expanded to include many of the kinds of people that you're hearing of, referred to in particular by Rabbi Jacob Lieberman and Kim Eppheimer in terms of other faith communities right? Being involved in hosting shelters, being involved in different ways. Later tonight, we'll post a list of ways in which the Jewish community is involved in a number of issues around economic insecurity. And seeing no questions at the moment, I will keep that Q&A open, but ask that Rabbi Yair Robinson tell us what DERECH is thinking of doing as an organization to be a part of all of what you're hearing tonight.
Thank you, Rabbi Winokur, and thank you to Mrs. Eppiheimer and Mr. Meyer for sharing their words, which are so inspiring, and how serendipitous, and really we know in our faith tradition, there's no such thing as serendipity, that the Hope Hotel opens as we light our sixth candle, as we celebrate together tonight, should tell us that it is our responsibility, as has been said before, to bring light into the darkness. In our tradition, there are words that we say when we are prepared to do something, to fulfill a sacred obligation. Hineni mochan zuman. Often those words are said as we're about to fulfill a ritual. Behold, I am ready and prepared. But tonight we say, and we hope that our clergy friends will join us, we are ready and prepared, as Rabbi Beals mentioned earlier, as Mr. Meyer mentioned earlier, to be spiritual counselors for this year for all those who are residents at the Hope Hotel. And as Rabbi Winokur mentioned, there will be many other opportunities for all of us, each of us, to commit ourselves to say, Hineni muchan umzuman, I am ready and prepared to care for those in our midst. And those are going to be shared in the chat for those of us who are on the webinar, and will be shared in an email form for those who registered tomorrow. And so I hope you will, all of us will, lift ourselves up and commit ourselves to doing those deeds, to bringing that light to those who are in need, just as we are going to hopefully do so for all those at Hope Hotel.
All right. Hi, everyone. Wonderful words of inspiration tonight. And we're going to light the candles together in just a few moments. Take a moment here to think about the places we want to increase light in the world, places we in our individually, places we need it in our community, in our neighborhoods. So as we gather our lights, gather our energy, I want to invite you to join me in this African-American song to begin our night. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Some hope now, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. We're gonna light these Hanukkah lights, this little Hanukkah light. I'm gonna let it shine, this little Hanukkah light. I'm gonna let it shine, this little Hanukkah light. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. So if you are going to light the Hanukkah menorah with me tonight, I want to invite you to light your shamash. And I'm going to begin lighting my candle menorah here a little bit earlier with the community Chavara of Delaware. We had an earlier lighting of our Hanukkah menorahs, and I lit the oil one that's burning here. It burns for quite a few hours. It goes on till like 12:30, 1 o'clock at night. So that's the one I'm going to light first in the day. But it was a wonderful way to show you the glow and demonstrate the light of hope that we bring into this time as we increase the light, the beginning of this new Jewish month as well, and a time when we turn to ourselves, inspired with the blessings of increasing the light in the world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Ma'otzor Yeshuati Lechana et Lishabea Tikon Tefilati Sham Toda Nizabea Liet Prachim Mabeya Mitzar Hamnabea Azigmor Bishir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach Azigmor Bishir Mizmor Chanukah HaMizbeach. Rock of ages, let our praise your saving power. You amid the raging storm were our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but your arm availed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. For hope, for the new, for that new place of light, those in need in our community. Chag Sameach, everyone. Happy Chanukah.
And for one of our final things, as we join together, it might not be the first night, but it is of Chanukah, that is, but it is the very first night that the Hope Center is open, and that we in this whole group are together to light together. So we join in for Shehechianu to celebrate this momentous night for this project and for coming together in this endeavor as a community. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Thank you so much, Cantor Flynn. It was a beautiful blessing. I want to as well thank all of our rabbis and cantors tonight, Rabbi Robinson, Rabbi Micah Becker-Klein, Rabbi Capel, Rabbi Jeremy Winokur, who chaired our committee for this event. I'd also like to thank Executive Matt Meyer, Kim Eppiheimer, both for the work that you're doing and also for your dedication and being here tonight to make sure that the word got out about all of this good work within our communities. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Nicole Terranova, who is the quiet mover behind the scenes tonight, making this event seamlessly run. Oh, I'm so glad to see you on screen, Nicole. Thank you for everything that you've done, for getting all of us set up, for making this event a great success. And I'd also like to thank Seth Katzen for your partnership, Seth, for your work on behalf of the Jewish community here in Delaware, and the way in which we have in you a steady partner and a visionary. Thank you all for being with us tonight. It is a deep pleasure to be a part of this Jewish community, to be a part of this wider community that involves itself in the good work of repair, of bringing light into darkness, of bringing good where it needs to go. Thank you and good night.
I believe that Rabbi Stephen Sachs is also here from Addis Kodesh Shel Emeth, so if you can give him your attention, he will offer us a benediction. You have to get off of mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Rabbi Winokur. So we've been speaking a lot about hope. It's a beautiful word, and it's a very Jewish word. Think about hatikva, meaning the hope. If you think about it, Judaism really believes that our good old days are still in our future. Our best days are still ahead. You remember Billy Joel saying, the good old days aren't always so good and tomorrow ain't as bad as it seems. Our story is an unfinished story, looking to a future, to a messianic era. This is what inspired the Hasmoneans, the Maccabees. This is what inspires us again to celebrate what Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zichrona Livracha, of blessed memory, calls the dignity of difference. What does he mean by that when he talks about a dignity of difference? He's referring to a famous Mishnah in which we're told that we're all created, B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God, but we're distinctively created in the image of God. We're beautifully different from each other, but if all we have, as he points out, is our differences, we don't have anything in common. So what do we have in common? Well, you've seen it here tonight. This is what we're celebrating. We are celebrating our ability to do tikkun olam, to improve the world, to bring the world back together, and to repair the world. This is our shared part that brings us together, that shared humanity. So let us be blessed with the ability, despite our differences, or I should say, because of our differences, to come together, to work cooperatively, and to continue to bring hope to the world and bring God back into the world. Thank you very much, everyone. Chanukah Sameach. Have a wonderful and happy Chanukah.